Today we're talking about taking more time off in your business. When you run a business, taking time off is honestly kind of weird. It's very different than a normal job where you might get a certain number of days off or there's a specific procedure to taking time off. As an entrepreneur, you have to figure all of that out on your own. And sometimes what happens is you just accidentally never take time off and you end up working all the time and get burned out and grumpy. So today, I want to talk about how to avoid never taking time off and how to set aside time on your calendar so that way you can actually feel rested and relaxed in your business. Hey there, my name is Mara Kasarik, and I absolutely love exploring online courses, passive income, and running a profitable online business. I'm an online course designer and strategist who left her 9-to-5 in her 20s to start a small business, and that tiny little business has grown up over the years and now provides me a regular 6-figure income. On this podcast, I pull back the curtain of what it takes to create, launch, and run a thriving online course that helps your students achieve their dreams and allows you to grow your passive income too. Here you'll find launch strategy, marketing advice, curriculum design, and so much more about what it takes to create a better course. I'll also share a behind-the-scenes look at what it takes to start and run a successful online business. I'm sharing everything I've learned along the way, and I'm not afraid to get honest about the things I'm still learning and navigating. If you're ready to impact other people's lives through online courses and make some money too, pull up a seat, grab a cup of coffee, and get ready to dive in. Honestly, taking time off is something I have really struggled with over the years. Not just in my business, but even before when I had more traditional jobs, I was always the person who saved up their vacation days or didn't use them because it felt like I was a better employee if I didn't take time off. And that's something that carried over into my own business and actually got a little worse. Personally, for me, taking time off kind of feels like I don't really want to be successful. And this is a whole mindset thing that I am constantly unraveling, but I have this very needy voice sometimes at the back of my head saying, Mara, if you really wanted to be successful, you would be working all the time and you would be working harder and harder and harder. And that voice likes to tell me that we shouldn't take time off, which is not true at all. Taking time off is so productive. And there have been way too many times in my business where I was on vacation and I was working in the hotel room, or I just accidentally went months and months without taking time off. I'm going to share an embarrassing story, but at the end of last year, I looked at how many full days throughout the entire year I took off. So these are days where I did not work at all. And in 2022, there were 3 days where I did zero work at all. Now, there were a lot of days where I was only doing a couple of hours of work, or I worked a half day or something like that. But still, that's not very healthy to just never actually allow yourself to unplug. And so this year, I've been a lot more intentional about taking time off. And not only taking time off, but that when I take time off, I'm not going to work during that time off. Or at least I'm not going to work a lot. So far this year, I've taken more time off in my business than I have ever in the past. And I actually recently got complimented by a couple of my business friends who were telling me that I'm so good at taking time off and I'm so good at reminding clients about it. And I was like, really? Because I don't feel like I'm that good at it, but it is something I have really been working on this year. So today I want to share with you 5 hacks that will help you take more time off in your own business. My first tip is to plan out your time off super far in advance. One habit that I have in my business is I sit down at the end of the year in December and I map out all of the time off that I want to have for the upcoming year. And usually this doesn't end up being every single day I'm going to take off. There are absolutely things that come up during the year that I can't predict the December before, but it's really helpful to have a game plan and put time off on the calendar first before all of the other stuff starts popping up on it. I made a list of different things in my business that I know I'm usually going to want time off for. So basically, I made myself a company calendar that maps out times where I want to be less busy. And something I did last year that worked very well, I highly recommend this, is anytime last year I was starting to feel burned out or squirrely, or just noticing, wow, we've had a lot of company at our house, or we just have a lot going on, I put that on my calendar. So I would literally make an event on whatever day I was feeling that way. And then when I was planning this year, I looked back at all of those events and I was able to see these notes that said, you were really burnt out this week. And sometimes there were multiple weeks where I said that. Or there would be a note that we had a lot going on and it was really hard to balance business versus personal life. So I used all of those notes this year when I was planning my time off, and I kind of filled in the gaps of where I knew that I needed to take more time off. So for me personally, here's the basic schedule I follow when I am pre-planning my time off, and hopefully this will help and give you some ideas of how to pre-plan your own time off. I always start with taking 2 weeks off around Christmas. And that's something I have done for a couple of years in my business. I'm not always great at not working during those 2 weeks, but I block it off to give myself time to fully unplug, enjoy the holidays. It gives me time to think about my goals and think about my business. And I really, really love that time of year. So I block off 2 weeks on my calendar for Christmas. Then after Christmas, January is very busy in my business, and I don't plan a lot of time off because it's usually just stressful to take time off during January. Everyone is always launching their online course in January, and I'm always busy. But after January, I noticed that in February and March, I get a little squirrely. I start to get a little burned out. It's usually not bad yet, but I've noticed I need some sort of additional thing to look forward to. So I don't have a specific day, but I will plan an additional weekend where I take off Friday and I take off Monday, and then we can do a weekend trip, or we can just stay home and go to the beach more if that's what we want to do. But it gives me the freedom of knowing I have dedicated time where I don't have to be thinking about work, and that has worked very well. Then in the spring, around April, this is when I saw a lot of notes on my calendar that I was feeling very burnt out, because you're far enough away from the holidays where you haven't had a really long break in a while. So this year I decided to take a spring break in my business, and that's something I'm going to continue to do going forward. I personally just decided the week of Easter, I'm going to take a week off in my business. And I really like using holidays as my accountability system. I just picked Easter because it's on the calendar. I will remember because stores will be doing Easter things. People will be talking about Easter. So it makes it really easy for me to remember, oh, that is the week of my company spring break. So I planned an entire week off where I wasn't going to be working, and it was wonderful. Then for the rest of the year time off, there's a couple of other things I like to make sure I take time off for. My birthday is in May, so I always make sure I take, at the very least, take my birthday off, because I consider that a company holiday. And if you run your own business, I do not think you should have to work on your birthday. So I always plan either just the day off for my birthday or usually a couple of days around there. And then my wedding anniversary is in August. So again, same thing. I know I'm going to want some time off around that. And then in November is my husband's birthday, and we typically will do a larger trip. It just tends to be a good time of year for us to do a bigger trip out of town. Also, it's his birthday, so that way I know this is a good time to take time off, and I'll take a full week off then, and then we have Thanksgiving, and then we are at Christmas. So pretty easily I can just plug in all of the time off and set up my time off for the year. And I go through, I put it all on my calendar, so that way I have like guideposts of where I want to go. And that leads me into tip number 2, which is to tell people super duper far in advance about your time off when you can. There are going to be times where you have to take time off in your business and you don't have a bunch of advance notice. That is okay. But tell people far in advance for the things you do know. So typically at the beginning of the year, around January 4th or January 5th, I will send an email to all of the clients I'm currently working with. And then I also send the email to clients who I have worked with in the past, and I think they might come back this year, because I tend to get a lot of repeat clients where we set up their online course and either they launch another course or they want to relaunch their course a year later. So they tend to come back. So I send an email to both groups of people and it just says, Happy New Year. I hope you had an amazing holiday. Here is my pricing for this year. Here are the times I'm going to be out of office. And then I list out all of the times that I came up with. And then I'll include a few other things if there's anything else that people need to know about working with me in the new year. And that is very effective because that way I am on their calendar first. And I don't actually expect that they're going to remember or write down all of this time I have off, but it gives me permission to know that I told everyone, because otherwise what happens is, in my world at least, people are launching all the time. And if I'm not careful, I can accidentally be launching someone's product or course every single week of the year, which is very draining and exhausting. But if I put my time off on the calendar before everyone else is planning their launches and their goals and all of that stuff, it's so much easier to actually stick to taking that time off. Also, on top of telling people and sending that email, build in as many automatic reminders as you can about your time off, because it'll help remind your clients and it'll also help you actually take the time off. So I do a couple of things to put reminding people about my time off on autopilot. Well, hello there. I am interrupting this episode to take a little break, and I want to share with you a free resource I created for course creators and aspiring course creators. The number one question I get in my business every single day, I get DMs about this, I get emails about this all the time, and it is, what is the best online course software? And the answer is it depends. It depends on a lot of stuff in your business. It depends on your goals. It depends on the kind of teacher you are. It depends on the student experience you want to have. But I did want to help you narrow it down. So I created a free quiz. It's called Discover Your Perfect Online Course Software, and you can take it at createabettercourse.com/quiz. And it'll ask you a few questions and give you a personalized recommendation on the best online course software for you. One of the things I do is I have a page on my website that's called Collaboration Guidelines, and I will link to this in the show notes. It's very helpful. I think everyone should have this page on their website. But it's basically a page I send to all of my clients. It's on my onboarding documents as well. It's also linked in the bottom of my email signature. So that way, if you email me about something, there's this little link that says Collaboration Guidelines, and you can click on it and you can see all of my boundaries and time off. And it's written in a very nice and friendly way, but it just outlines things like email usually takes me 24 hours to respond to. I don't respond to emails on the weekends. I don't do last minute or same day requests for work. There's a whole bunch of stuff in there that helps me protect my own boundaries. And that could be a future podcast episode, because that has been so helpful to have a place where all of my boundaries are listed, and they're all very normal things. If you go look at the list, you'll be like, Mara, these are things you have to tell people. And yes, they are, because otherwise I will get an email and feel like I need to respond in the next 5 minutes right after I receive it. At the bottom of my collaboration guidelines page, though, it says upcoming time off, and I put all of the time that I'm taking off for the year. And again, that's super helpful because I'm constantly reminding people and having it published of exactly when I'm going to be taking time off. And the other thing I do to kind of automate time off reminders is I will pre-schedule emails. So after I do that January and December planning of when I'm going to take time off and I email all of my clients, I usually will set up reminders reminding them about my time off. And these emails are just super simple. I usually send one month in advance before I'm going to be out of office, and that email reminds them when I'm going to be out of office, and then also lets them know if there's anything you need me to do, get it to me so that way I can do it before I go out of town, because otherwise what can happen is you will get an influx of all of these requests right before you're going out of town, and it'll be very stressful and chaotic. So I do a 1 month reminder, and then I also do a 1 week reminder, and then I usually do a 1 day reminder. Sometimes the 1 day reminder looks a little more like mentioning on a meeting that I'm going to be out of office or sending a note on Slack versus an official email. But that 1 month reminder and that week reminder, I schedule super early, as far in advance as I can. So when I planned my spring break, which was in April this year, I scheduled emails to my clients, and I just used Gmail and I used their scheduling feature. I pre-scheduled those emails in January, reminding them about my time off. And I did that because I know I am bad about actually taking the time off. And what I will try to do is go out of town and just keep working. So if I pre-schedule it, it forces me to remind them and not be able to forget or to say I'm still working. Another way you can automate letting people know about your upcoming time off, and this is a hack I just implemented recently and it's been amazing, but put your upcoming time off in your email signature. At the very bottom of my email signature, it has that link to my collaboration guidelines, and it has my office hours as well, so people know when I'm usually around responding to things. But then it also will say upcoming time off, and it'll list the next dates that I'm going to be out of office. And that is very helpful because it's a very non-intrusive way to constantly be reminding people when you're going to be out of office. I also work with a lot of other entrepreneurs, and interestingly enough, we all seem to forget about holidays and just normal things on the calendar that the regular working world is taking off. So I find it very helpful to remind clients in that way of Memorial Day is coming up or the 4th of July, because sometimes they forget and they won't realize that it's coming up. And then the day will happen and they'll think, oh, shoot, I didn't realize that this was a holiday. And it kind of sucks everyone into working. So I like to remind people of upcoming holidays and then also any personal time I have coming up. And what I do is when I get back from vacation, one of the first things I do is I update my email signature and I just delete the time off that has now passed and I update it to the next round of time off. So there almost always is something there. Even if the time off is in like 2 months, I still put it in my email signature. So that way it's constantly reminding people and constantly reminding myself of, hey, you're actually going to be out of office during this time, Mara. Okay, now I want to talk about boundaries when you take time off. So I'm going to flip this gears a little bit from talking about how to plan it and how to remind people. And we're going to talk about actually taking the time off and how you create boundaries around it. So the very first thing that I've started doing recently is I spend some time thinking about what my expectations and my boundaries for this trip are. And I know this episode is about not working on your time off, but there are times in my business where it's more of a relaxed time off, and I know I'm going to do a little bit of work, like either in the morning I'm going to check on things, or maybe I'll do some work in the afternoon. So what I like to do is just get very clear about what type of trip this is. And I just spend some time thinking, and usually I'll literally write it down. Am I not going to work at all on this trip? And you should have multiple periods of time where you are fully not working, not responding to things throughout the year. Or is it a trip or period of time off where I'm just doing what I call work light mode? So I'm doing like lighter work, but I'm not doing my regular work schedule, but I might be doing a few things. And so I get clear on exactly what am I doing on my time off. So that way I know what to say yes to and what to say no to. And then I also think about how I can uphold those boundaries, specifically in ways that add in automatic accountability. So some things I will do are I delete apps off my phone during time off. So I might delete like the Slack app, my email app, my Voxer app, so that way it's harder to do work while I'm on vacation. If I don't want to fully delete those apps, sometimes I will just hide them in a folder on the very last screen of my phone. That also works very well. Another way you can set some boundaries and hold yourself to actually taking time off is to block things from your computer as well. There are a lot of great websites and Chrome extensions where you can set up what websites you want to block. And sometimes when I go on vacation, I will block my website and my email, so it's literally impossible for me to work while on vacation. And as weird as it sounds, that is something that really helps me to physically make it impossible to be doing work. Another thing I do is I use my friends and family as accountability buddies, and I will tell them, hey, on this trip, I'm not going to be doing any work, or on this trip, I'm only going to work an hour in the morning. And when you tell people that, they will call you out if you're working. And it's very effective because they will tell you, hey, you have your computer. Why are you working? So I highly recommend taking advantage of all of that. Like, tell people you're going to take time off, so that way if you are being sneaky and working, they will make you stop. And it makes it a lot easier to take time off in your business. Before we wrap up this episode, I want to talk about the mindset of taking time off, because I talked earlier in this episode about how it can feel like cheating when you're an entrepreneur. At least for me, it feels like you don't want to be successful. There's a lot of other stuff that comes up for me around if I take time off, I'm not being helpful to my clients and they won't want to work with me in the future. Or if I take time off, I'm getting lazy and I'm not hungry for success. And I just want to acknowledge that those feelings are out there, and there's probably other people that feel that way, but taking time off is productive. I don't think I've ever talked to a business owner who hasn't been through some sort of burnout, and we all know how terrible burnout feels, and it can be really hard to come back from. And every time I have taken time off in my business, it has made me a better business owner for myself, for my clients. It's made me faster at my work. It's made the quality of my work so much better. So I just want to end with a reminder that it is safe to take time off. It is okay. It makes you a better business owner. And also, having freedom in our business is usually the reason we started a business in the first place. So don't let yourself fall into this cycle where you're working all the time and you never allow yourself to take time off. And my action tip for you at the end of this episode is to go and block off the next time you're going to take off on your calendar. Do it right now. Put it on your calendar, even if it's in 3 months, in 6 months, because so often I see people say they're burned out, they're tired, they're exhausted, but they can't take time off right now. And so they don't do it. But what they also don't do is they don't plan any time off for the future. So put something on your calendar right now, even if you're just going to stay home and stay in your PJs and watch movies and eat snacks. It'll still be amazing, and you deserve time off. So book it in now and remind yourself, time off is productive. It will literally make you a better business owner. Hey there, friend. You made it all the way to the end of the episode, and I am so incredibly grateful and appreciative that you're still here. I hope this episode really helped you dive in deeper, and if you want to hear more about online business, course creation, and growing passive income, then you'll want to hit that subscribe button so you never miss a new episode. I release one every single week. I will see you on the next episode.